And a privilege to be here this evening with all of you to celebrate Veterans Day as St. Michael's celebrates it. It is a gift and a blessing. I come from a line of vets. My grandfather died from his wounds from World War I. My dad was flying Spitfires in the RAF. And I have two daughters in uniform once upon a time. Apparently, it's in the DNA. I think we all understand that Veterans Day is a time for us to pay respects and to remember those who have served. So how did we get to Veterans Day? All served. Some were volunteered. Some were voluntold. Some were told to serve. Some wanted to serve, just wanted to be in uniform. Wanted to train, physical fitness, but worn into that was a key thread: faith, courage, resistance, love, care for brother and sister beyond ourselves, sacrifice for others. The camaraderie of those who have served is that which is the integrity that holds us together. It helps and gives us the ability to bounce back into the fight, be it combat or just the fight of living. Please think about it. The willingness to fight for you, for the one beside you, and to discover something beside yourself. Jesus, our Lord. To fight again, to get up and not be knocked down by events, and to pray for those in needs. All gave some gave all. Veterans Day started as a day to reflect upon the heroism of those who had died in our country's service, and as we all know, was originally called Armistice Day. And we all know that it fell on 11 November because it was the anniversary and the signing of the armistice that ended World War I. When it was first celebrated as Armistice Day, marking that day at the end of World War I, was the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. Now, there's a little bit of interesting history. The unknown warrior was buried in Westminster Abbey 11 November 1920. That was started by Padre David Railton. And on the U.S. side, World War I veteran Hamilton Fish proposed legislation that led to the burial of the unknown soldier in Arlington, 11 November 1921, who was also awarded the Medal of Honor as unknown. Technically, there are other tombs surrounding it. The tomb for World War II, Korea, are in adjacent crypts. That is not the case with the Vietnam War, because the unknown was soon described and found out to be Lieutenant Bassey, who has been reburied in Jefferson National Cemetery. However, there are still 1,500 unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. In 1954, it was renamed Veterans Day in order to account for all veterans in all wars. We know this as Veterans Day. Please note, there is a little grammatic issue here. There is no apostrophe. It's Veterans Day. It doesn't really matter where in our life we started, be it in our adolescence that we started with courage and faith, be we male or female, the ability to get back up when we're knocked down. That's something to know that you're still in the fight. Our lives do not come with a map, but some of us will and have unexpected turns and twists from everyday life and challenges of traumatic events, lasting events of deaths of loved ones, life-altering accidents, combat, serious illness, and it affects each one of us with thoughts, strong emotions, and uncertainties. We adapt to these life-changing situations in part by courage, resilience, and faith. God's response: I have a plan. Do it my way. All gave some, and some gave all. In my work in the Episcopal Relief and Development, one of the key things we have learned is the ability to give back to the individual who is in that crisis, the ability to make decisions for themselves, to believe in themselves again, and gives them faith, courage, and resilience at the same time. It gives them that ability to stand back up. However, one thing is pretty critical in this scenario. I found as a combatant that keeping a sense of humor was absolutely critical. And a slightly different version of what everybody learned in kindergarten, I learned in Vietnam, and other places where they worked very hard to kill you. And like all present, you learn to take it with a pound of salt. For example, once in combat, it's not a good idea to wonder if it's too late to have it. Never get into a fight with less ammo than the other guy. Helicopters are cool. Madness of war can exact a heavy cost. Please have exact change. If everything is going clear as it should, and everything is going just as planned, you're about to be surprised. It does, too, get cold in the Pacific, Europe, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. Oh, by the way, combat pay is a flawed concept because having all of your body parts intact, functioning at the end of the day, beats the alternatives. Air superiority is not a luxury. While the rest of the crew may be in the same predicament, it's usually the pilot's job to arrive at the crash site first. Loud noises will get your attention. No matter what you do, the bullet, rocket, bomb with your name on it will get you, and so will the one that says, "To whom it may concern." Cover your wingmen so they can be around to cover you. Box of cookies from home must always be shared. And please, for those of us who are ancient, make sure that somebody has a P-38 with their C-rats that's a can opener. C4 can make a dull day just fun. There's no such thing as a small firefight unless you weren't there. Thousands of veterans earn medals for bravery every day, and a few of them even got awarded. All gave some gave all. You might be a veteran if your spouse or child responds to "hooah" and understands what it means regardless of what you're present in. You may be a veteran if you have no problem when a 2-year-old you don't know grabs your legs and when you're in fatigues, ABUs, DCUs, and says, "Daddy, Mommy." You might be a veteran if the History Channel is your favorite channel. You might be a veteran if you've seen the movie Patton, Band of Brothers, or Saving Private Ryan enough times to memorize it. You might be a veteran if Pork Chop Hill, Hamburger Hill, Da Nang, Omaha Beach, Balad, Bagram, and 9/11 isn't some exotic time and place. You might be a veteran if you weep in a national cemetery when you hear taps. Yes, there were nurses in Vietnam, unlike what some believed in the States, for I saw them in the trenches. They were out there for us, and they helped put us back together. This week, we will remember and observe Veterans Day. For some, it's an opportunity to kick back and relax. For some, it'll be an opportunity, like all of you present, to recognize those who have provided those freedoms we enjoy. Let us pause for a moment and reflect just what it means to be a veteran. Some veterans bear physical signs of their service, a missing limb, a jagged scar, that certain look in their eye. Others carry evidence inside themselves, a pin holding bones together, a piece of shrapnel in the leg, and perhaps some other inner steel, the soul forged in God who saved them, both in body, soul, and mind in the field. Except in parades, and only men and women who have served our country They wear no emblem or badge. You can't tell a vet just by looking, unless you are one. Most vets live a quiet and anonymous life among us. They are our grandparents to some, parents to their children, brothers and sisters to many. So who is that veteran? That veteran may be that elderly gentleman at the supermarket, that slow walking who liberated a Nazi German camp in World War II and wishes all day long that his wife was still alive to hold him when the nightmares come. He's a retired businessman whose co-workers never guessed that behind his quiet demeanor is a hero of 4 hours of exquisite bravery against impossible odds 75 years ago, Friday, in the cold, on the 38th parallel of Korea. She is the nurse who fought against the futility and went to sleep every night for a solid year in the heat of Vietnam, crying. He is the POW that went away one person and came back another, or the 4 held in Iraq that never came back at all. He and she are the ones who laid down their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are 19-year-old security forces young lady Liz Jacobson, PJ Jason Cunningham, or TAC P John Chapman, or Radio Red Irwin, all my people from my last tour. All gave some gave all. Veterans, be you in uniform or not, at this moment, would you please wave or stand for a moment to be recognized? Thank you, and God bless you. Some years ago, I invited, when I was command chaplain in Europe, by the way, that meant I owned the property from the Azores, northern Norway, southern Africa to Afghanistan, and anything in Germany. I was never bored. I had invited Keith Lewis, a one-time front-seater F-4D Phantom jet, to do a conference all chaplains and chaplain assistants. And as he tells me, we did this over a couple of glasses of wine, as he was hanging in a chute and the VC are firing up at him with AK-47s, he's praying to God, you get me out of this, I'll do anything you want, even to become that priest you want me to be. So Keith ends up spending time in the Hilton as a POW, then off to seminary, and then retires sometime later as an Air Force chaplain. The conference went very well. But at the end, I realized I'd made a disastrous mistake. Pat, Keith's bride, who was present, did not get a chance to tell her story of the days what it was like praying that he would survive as a POW. Veterans, without our loved ones, without our brides, we don't have what it takes. From a vet's bride, not mine. Perhaps the anniversary is very precious for many reasons, but I remember our first. We did not spend our first anniversary together. We were living apart. Only a couple of months after our wedding, he received his assignment and orders to go to NKP, Thailand, where he'd be flying night missions as a forward air controller over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So I settled into an apartment in Denver, not too far from my brother. I don't remember that night of my first wedding anniversary. I remember it was most likely like all of the rest. I'd come home from work, plop in the armchair, turn on the evening news, hear Walter Cronkite's controlled voice as he read the latest statistics of how many planes were reported down, the daily tally of dead in mission, and fear would creep in around the edges all night. No letters came for a long time, and no tapes. I was a newlywed and new to the military for less than a year. No one in my family had ever served in the armed forces. My experience during that separation gave me a deep understanding and empathy for many spouses, for what they face in extreme circumstances. Above all, I'm very grateful to God that when that year was over, I was able to drive to that short distance to Stapleton Airport and see and hold my husband again. Would all spouses please stand of military members? Again, we can't do it without them. These have been stories of courage, faith, and resilience. Okay, Chaplain, Colonel, this is getting a little heavy. How about telling us a joke or two just to lighten up? One Sunday morning, the pastor of a large suburban parish made the following announcement from the pulpit. My brothers and sisters, I know you're fully aware that this building of ours had a leaky roof and requires extensive and expensive repair. Consequently, I now appeal to each one of you for some much-needed financial help. Will all of you willing to pledge $200 or more please stand up now? Whereupon cue, the organist played in full volume the national anthem. Those who gave some and those who gave all. Now we remember and appreciate all the gifts that God has given us, particularly the gift of those veterans and friends. And they are the ones that were present. Now, there's another small group of which I've had the privilege to be a part of. And they have been giving hope to the vet ever since the War of Independence. They're called Visible Reminders of the Holy, to show that God is in charge. They, the chaplains, try to walk with airmen, Marines, sailors, soldiers, Coast Guard in combat, daily life, and whatever the crisis may be. In Saving Private Ryan, if you recall the scene on the beach of a chaplain leaning over one of the guys dying, saying a prayer for him, he was real. Father Francis Sampson. There were 3 chaplains in Lebanon after the bombing of the barracks, one Episcopal who was taken out, one Roman and one Jewish, and how the Roman priest looked over and saw his Jewish brother using his own yarmulke and wiping off the blood and making the sign of the cross on a dying young Marine's forehead, and how that priest, after some 36 hours, stayed up cutting up his own BDUs to make a new yarmulke for his brother. All gave some gave all. Or the 2 Air Force chaplains at Da Nang, who a young second lieutenant had to give a body block in the middle of a battle to get him to the ground because they came visiting during a major attack. Why? Because we were there. How about the 4 chaplains who gave up and gave their life jackets so that others may live on the USS Dorchester? In the last year, my wife of 52 years has held my hands as I've handled and dealt with many challenges of major cancers, thanks to my time in Vietnam. There I was an ordnance engineer, explosives expert, or at least that's what my DD-214 said at the time when I left. My job was to check, hands-on, every weapon that we dropped from 3 squadrons of F-4s daily at Da Nang. Hands-on meant literally, I knew them well. Napalm, magnesium, white phosphorus, every form of iron bomb, all missiles, 20 mil, even was responsible for the first laser guided, and the list goes on. After a time, I returned to the Air Force as an active duty chaplain and served other combat missions and tours, as well as time in 9/11 in the Pentagon. Ended up with 32 years. All of this is to say how I ended up with Agent Orange, lost 18 pounds in surgery. And it's also a way of saying that a number of you here still suffer from your wounds, and you are not alone, and your wounds are worse than mine. I, like so many of you, have been held together by the prayers of our loved ones, those faithful. Otherwise, we would not be here today. That is the opportunity, and I thank you for this time. It has been an honor and a privilege and a blessing to be in your midst. All gave some gave all. Amen.